thinking individuals. UUFCC is a spiritual community where reason and social justice matter. As people who learn, love, share, and serve together, we welcome all into our family. Let's begin with our opening invitation to gather together, even as we're scattered in many different places. Enter, rejoice, and zoom in. Don't forget your clapping hands.
Wait a minute.
All right, Mr. Director, enter, rejoice, and zoom in.
Can't hear you.
Good morning. I'm Laura Anderson, the worship associate for this morning's service. I'm going to do some chalice lighting words, say our regular affirmation, and then Lori will light the chalice in the chancel, and I'll give you a chance to light your your chalice at home. I picked these words this morning because they talk about the color of fire, and this time of year, I think about fire and all the beautiful colors in a flame. And the chalice flame reminds me of that as well. The words this morning are from Betz Wieniecki. As we gather together this morning, may we learn to recognize and affirm the pieces of possibility, the bits of good we bring. May we encourage rather than control, love rather than possess, enable rather than envy, allowing our individual gifts to weave a patchwork of peace. The soft, deep blue of sensitivity and understanding, the red energy of creativity, the white heat of conviction, the risky, fragile green of new growth, the golden flashes of gratitude, the warm rose of love. Each of us is indispensable if we are to minister to a broken and wounded world. Together in our gathered diversity, we form the whole. So be it. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Please light your own chalice at home. The opening words this morning are from the Dr. Reverend Hope Johnson. She served the UUA as Congregational Life Consultant with the Southern Region, and we lost her this month. She passed away earlier in December. She said, "Sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow, sometimes we serve, sometimes we simply bear witness. I pray that UUFCC will continue to live into its rich legacy of being a caring congregation that's actively making this world a better place by practicing what it preaches within and without its walls." May it be so.
I don't know what else. Now is the time for us to greet anyone who is new or back with us today after a time away. Welcome. Please take a minute and to say hi in the chat area, and you can find the spot where Lori Bell put in. You can put your name, where you are, and how you might found us. That would be wonderful if we could do that. And while you're doing that, we'll begin with our theme song for the third service, The Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
I now am honored to introduce our member spotlight for today, Mary Howard, who joined us here in 1995, making her our elder with the most longevity as a member here. Welcome, Mary.
I can't read what my screen says.
You're good, Mary.
All right, thank you. I was surprised when Reverend Dan told me I was the longest serving member of the congregation. And I guess even more surprised because I had been coming here for several years before I officially became a member. And I guess this morning, to tell you a little bit about who I am, I was born back in 1936 in a very small town in in Pennsylvania. I'm the second of 5 surviving children. My parents each came from families of 6. So I grew up with just tons of aunts, uncles, cousins. And it's an area in Pennsylvania, even though our little town of 2,000 people kind of isolated, within 10 miles radius of that town, you were either in the Pocono Mountains, the anthracite coal mines, or agricultural, beautiful farmland. My parents both came from working class families, primarily railroad and mining and factories in that area. My religious life began, my earliest memories are of the Sunday school in the German Reformed Church there. But at age 6, my parents became Jehovah's Witnesses. And that was quite a change in my young life. And I, of course, stayed with that until I was a teenager. I was a smart aleck kid who questioned a lot of things and finally broke away from that. Also, around the age of 6, the Second World War was raging. My father developed some health problems and he decided that we would be better off living on a small farm and moved us out into the country onto a small farm. I hated living in the country, and my change in school, 5 years of my elementary school, I went to a 1-room schoolhouse without indoor plumbing. But it really, when I got older, appreciated it because that teacher turned me on to learning. I was always a good student. And because I was a good student, I had a academic scholarship and was able to study nursing. One of the mistakes in my life was marrying my high school sweetheart and enduring a 20-year marriage that should have ended long before it did. I am a registered nurse and worked in various fields in nursing. Started out in obstetrics, then worked as an operating room nurse. Of course, being female and having children, my work was interrupted. After both of my children, I went into school nursing and worked, my last 15 years that I worked was at a residential facility at that time for, we called it retarded children. And I became the manager, director of that facility. As I said, I was married twice. In 1978, I had a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old, 24-hour responsibility job. The last thing I needed was a boyfriend or a new man in my life. But I met Art Howard, and he had been recently widowed, thought marriage was just wonderful. And the significant thing probably there was that he was a UU. I, at that time, didn't know anything about UU. He was a member of the Cedar Lane Church in Bethesda, Maryland. And you probably know that name because that's where our Katie Romano Griffin now serves. And it was Mary Holly's home church also. Art was retired from, he had 30 years of federal service. And at that time, he was working as a consultant at the State Department. It seemed like an unlikely combination of him living there and me in Pennsylvania with a job and kids. But he persuaded me that we would make a good team. We married in 1979, and we were married for 36 years. He had two wishes, one of them to live in Florida and the other to travel. And he didn't want to do luxury travel and lay on the beach. He wanted to do adventure travel where we would learn. So we traveled quite a bit with an Airstream trailer, joined international caravanning, did one bit where we were part of an international group in Europe, got vehicles at the Volkswagen factory, spent 6 months traveling in Europe, 20 countries. Another caravan was in South Africa. We spent 2.5 months with a rented motorhome, drove several thousand miles in South Africa with an international group. Another 2 months in Mexico, one winter. And the goal to live in Florida brought us here. We became residents in Florida in 1988, but continued to have our large home in Pennsylvania until about 15 years ago. Art was 16 years older than I was. So because of that age difference, even though I needed more time before retirement, he decided his best years would be gone if I continued to work. So I've been retired a long time now. But here in Port Charlotte, we started really as drop-ins at the UU. And that went on for many years. He became a member shortly before I did. And of course, we were younger and like new people who come in and you're energetic and capable. We immediately became active in all kinds of jobs. I was part of the inception of the original caring committee. I've been part of the caring committee since it began. And in the beginning, there were 3 of us, Beth Morrison, Judy Norton, and myself. Let me see, my memory's getting on me. Need to look at some notes. I was on the board initially as a trustee and realized that Art would be a better board member. Throughout all his years, he had significant offices with the fellowship, was very instrumental in fundraising. Let's see. I became known at the fellowship here at one point as, I called myself the kitchen witch, organized most of the dinners, social affairs, and the memorials. Early on, there were only 2 of us who had cards to do purchasing. Bill Wharton purchased all of the office and janitorial supplies, and I purchased the kitchen supplies. And it reached the point where I think people thought that I owned the kitchen at UU, didn't do anything unless they consulted me about the kitchen. As you can see, I'm now absent from the kitchen. Started a program called Dine Around and organized and did Dine Around for 11 years and then passed that off to somebody else. We used to do meals and movies and had a group that we had season tickets each year to the Asolo Theater. initially there were 2 carloads of us, van loads actually. I drove a van to the Asolo Theater. And that people just died off until it was just Art and I, and finally just myself going there. The fellowship became my social activity, my spiritual home, and my support group, especially the last 5 years as Art's health declined. And I don't think I could have made it through his last 2 years without the support of the fellowship. And I hope that I'm going to be around for a long time to continue, and I hope to continue to be part of especially the caring committee, and just I'm eager to know some of the newer and younger people. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mary. You remain a strong member of our community, and we appreciate you being with us. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, I now invite you to share your joys and concerns for the Book of Life in the chat area as the music plays. Let us now join for a moment of silence. The bell will sing after a minute.
Spirit of life, come unto me.
You now have the opportunity again to do something about this empty basket here. You can offer donations by a check or on Venmo mobile app. We truly appreciate your continued giving, as despite not meeting in person, our beautiful staff, our building, and our activities still need to be supported. Thank you. We have a very special service today presented by representatives of our fellowship who participated in the leadership experience offered by the Southern region of UUA. They include Ginger Abraham, Laura Anderson, Betty Barriga, Lori Bell, Linda Himes, Laura Learman, Samara Michelson, Mary Jane Williams, and myself. We had the pleasure of working with each other and UUA leaders, Natalie Briscoe, Connie Goodbrid, and Nancy Combs Morgan, for approximately 20 plus hours of study and virtual gathering over a 4-month period. Though there were 13 congregations represented and over 80 people, the material was discussed within our group and directly applied to our fellowship workings. Samara will now lead us.
Good morning, everyone. So our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught us that stories are critical to learning. So let us, the 8 of us who participated, weave you a story. Trust and covenant, that's what I'm talking about. Do I belong here? I ask the thin air. Will they take me in? No one can hear all my questions, my questions, my questions.
Stories are critical. Different stories inspire us in different ways at different times of our lives. These stories may be fictional, sacred text, literature, stories from members' passionate conceptions about the interconnectedness of our world, or stories concerning personal, historical, and community struggles, including what it takes to triumph over those toils. Stories keep us connected and keep us going. Just as family stories define us, so do our UUFCC stories characterize us. We've had freedom riders in our congregation and members who bookended their activist lives by boldly protesting injustices in their 20s and forged on protesting with walkers and wheelchairs right into their 90s, as far as they could go on our Port Charlotte Bridge. Myrna and Mary's stories shine as beacons urging us on the last couple of sermons. We are in the midst of a historical story now. How will our story inspire? Thank goodness we are a fellowship of storytelling people. Samara?
Our training with the UU Southern Leader Experience taught faith is trust and confidence in someone or something. This is new to me. Faith is trust and confidence in someone or something. Lori Bell.
Just as a child born, we must provide a first-time visitor open arms, a consistent voice, and a simple but structured path to become a member of our beloved family. This will quickly give one the feeling of trust for faith development. An inclusive, clear path from the moment one passes through our doors is the first step of trust. Openly sharing our covenant to show the foundation is secure toward growth in faith and love. To tell our stories, to be understood. What we have overcome was because of the trust we have in each other, even if beliefs vary. That the trust in our congregation is what develops our faith, and that faith is trust.
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught there are 4 attributes of covenant. It is free, 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 free. It is voluntary, voluntary, voluntary. It is mutual. It is non-coercive. In the words of Martin Buber, we are a promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, promise-renewing people. Mary Jane.
Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal, not a creedal faith. What matters is how we are together, not that we all believe the same things. As Francis David so eloquently stated, we need not believe alike to love alike. Our 7 principles are actually part of our UUFCC congregation's covenant with Unitarian Universalism, Unitarian Universalist congregations. It is a sacred vow, a deep abiding promise we make to ourselves and what we call ourselves back to. It is not something that we use to coerce or force others to a certain behavior. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote our 7 principles. This covenant is a promise of how we will act together from a personal level through a global level and then back to the self within the universe, a great big circle of principles guiding our human behavior. A covenant can be both behavioral and aspirational. Sometimes we will not live up to it. It is not a contract. So when we fail to live up to it, we need to remember that we are out of covenant and that we have a duty to bring each other back into covenant, if at all possible. The covenant itself continues to exist even when we are out of covenant. It is not broken. Our covenant both guides our behavior with each other and provides us with a framework of ideals to aspire to meet. Realizing that we will fail, we come back to it as opposed to abandoning it. Our UUFCC covenant is as follows. We, the members of UUFCC, covenant to support and cherish all our members and friends and encourage each other to honor these high standards in relationship. We respect each other's views, backgrounds, and spiritual beliefs. We value a free, open, and mutually respectful freedom of expression. We listen to each other without judgment or interruption and speak directly with a person instead of about a person. We will address issues and behaviors rather than people and personalities. We will be considerate but courageous in naming action that diminishes our community. We offer forgiveness and understanding and expect that from each other. In all situations, we strive to respect everyone's dignity and well-being. We trust this covenant will help us work well together to make decisions, solve problems, and express differences of opinion in a considerate, respectful, and genuinely caring way. May it be so.
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught healthy cultures are founded by human beings, and human beings are both flawed and fabulous. Where or with whom have you felt accepted or loved just as you are, Betty? Betty, you're still muted.
Sorry. Here, of course, at the UUFCC, healthy culture starts with a solid congregational foundation, a foundation built on core values, covenant, mission, vision, strategic planning, and last but not least, goal setting, all clearly laid out for our members to embrace and embody so they can sustain and build core programs in order to create transformation of self and society.
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught us that there are so many questions. How do we build a healthy and sustainable community grounded in our core values? How do I see myself? See myself in the mirror, see myself from inside, see myself from what's reflected from other folks around me. How do I know myself from inside, from what other folks reflect around me, from my community? How will I become who I want to be? It is an ongoing journey, Laura.
An ongoing journey. These are difficult and complicated questions, difficult to find the answers and difficult to hear the answers sometimes. They're complicated because each question leads to more questions, difficult and complicated because the answers change constantly, a bit of a moving target maybe. What I learned from participating in this leadership experience is this. Natalie Briscoe presented an image of a triangle to demonstrate how connections between individuals and the UUA make a triangle strong and that strength can change the world. She explained it like this. A triangle has a strong base and it has 3 points. The bottom left is you and the bottom right is UUFCC. Together on the bottom is our community. The right side is religion and the left side is spirituality. Both lead up towards transcendence, the end goal to transform the world into a more loving place. The lines of the triangle are all paths, and we're all on different points on the triangle. But what's important is we support each other, and we definitely have a strong community, but sometimes maybe we forget our core values. If I can't see myself clearly, if I can't know myself, I can't tell where I am on this path, nor where I'm going. We're all connected and we're all stronger together. When we are in an honest, supportive, and loving relationship, we're stronger as individuals. May it be so.
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught that Unitarian Universalism is the path. It is the path we have found ourselves on, or a path we were born onto. But do not mistake the path for the people on the path. Ginger. You're muted, Ginger.
The part of this experience that had the most meaning for me was the third part, where we learned about dimensions of faith development as described by Natalie Briscoe. These dimensions are not stages that we go through automatically, but a path that we travel on which we might pause in one place for quite a while, or even backtrack from time to time. I found it most interesting that these dimensions apply not only to us as individuals, but also to us as a congregation, especially in our relationship with the minister. Learning about these dimensions helped me to understand my own path and better understand how fellow congregants sometimes act or react. It also helped me see things that have happened in the 20 years I have been at UUFCC in a different light. The first dimension is dimension 0, building trust. And this is where you figure out, well, I feel safe and welcomed here. Dimension 1 is building narrative part 1, connecting with the core stories of the faith in the congregation, learning what it's all about. Dimension 2 is building narrative part 2, developing stronger curiosity about and connection with those core stories. Dimension 3 is all about building community, becoming really a part of the community. Dimension 4 is deconstruction or unbuilding. And this involves critical reflection of values and beliefs and often causes some disillusionment with the faith or the congregation. Dimension 5 is building Unitarian Universalism, grasping the deep symbolic meanings of inherited culture and social systems and being open to exploring other cultures, systems, stories, and ideas. The final dimension, dimension 6, is building the world we dream about. This is the level of servant leadership, becoming an incarnation of the Spirit, an instrument of the divine. This is a stage that most of us only aspire to. Think Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi. Where do you see yourself on this path?
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught us the concept of calling each other back, calling each other back. Though I've broken my vows 1,000 times, come, yet again, come. Once we create a covenant, the real work begins. What is our process at UUFCC for calling each other back, Lori?
As humans in process, we mess up all the time. We're in a constant state of becoming. Try things, fail, try again, try something else. So how will we live into this covenant? When we aren't able to live up to what we would like, then what? Then we call ourselves back. This isn't me. I hear my ego speaking. I want to be humble. I want to be patient. Think back, we've been there. There are times in this fellowship when we have not treated each other in the way we want to be together. In our community, I think we do the aspiration part pretty well. The part I think we have trouble with is calling ourselves back. We're human, and sometimes we forget that. Being in covenant means we trust that we're committed to each other and in it for the process. Sometimes we get angry or scared and we break away, or we blame others, or we blame the community or ourselves. We splinter our own feelings and our community instead of accepting ourselves and each other as human. Then we don't often get to that wonderful healing step and allow our community to find strengthening in creative conflicts, where we can grow in trust and respect. We're starting to learn how to do this. So this is where we want to grow, learning to trust the process. We own it, we stop it, we name it, saying we're not in covenant right now. Let's stop and ask ourselves, is this how we want to treat each other? Is this how I want to be right now? We have the ability. We have a strong and loving community. We know about forgiveness and patience. Even if things get broken, we can come back. We can work it out. We don't have to leave. We can take responsibility. We can make amends. We learn to call each other back. Creative conflict. As they say, we can lean in and figure it out. We can recommit. Our goals can move ahead. So let's keep trusting each other and trusting in our process and keep calling each other back.
Our training with the UU Southern Leadership Experience taught faith development is all we do. Faith development is all we do. Unitarian Universalism is what we teach. And the congregation is the curriculum. The congregation is the curriculum. Leadership development is faith development, is membership development. We are a people on a path that winds through and through, around and through, like the labyrinth that Rev Dan recently painted in the UU parking lot. And we get to meet each other on this path. How very lucky we are. The end.
Our closing words this morning are from Connie Goodbread of the Southern region. She recounted a story during our time together that someone asked her about change. And they said to her, "What will this look like when it's over?" She didn't know, but this is what she answered. "When the caterpillar is moved to form the chrysalis, I don't think that they have any idea the metamorphosis they will undergo. I do not know what things will look like on the other side of this. I do know that things must change, and change is hard. Cultural change is hard. What I can tell you is that I work for more love and more justice. You are not alone in the work or the worry or the unknowing. There is more love somewhere, and I will work for that cause and that outcome. There are no easy answers. And as she said, I too am eternally grateful that we will face them together. May it be so.
Thank you. We're now ready for the life of the community. We're excited to present you with several opportunities in the coming year to share your thoughts and feelings, as we update our covenant, our mission, our vision, and our strategies to get there. These will include a new survey coming out to share your thoughts about fellowship priorities. We'll have focus groups to discuss our core values and other items, work groups with UUA representatives to address our process, and a pledge drive to support the means to how we're going to reach our goals. Happy to say that this year our co-chairs are Jerry and Alan Searle. Will be ready for the campaign. You'll hear more from them in coming weeks. Also, the life of the community this week, widening the circle. Please contact Ginger Abram if you want to be part of this group, which also starts in January. And the southern region of UUA is offering another opportunity for people who want to do this leadership training. If any of this spoke to you and you're interested, contact me. We'll work it out. And finally, on New Year's Eve, please join us for the countdown at 11:30 p.m. for our New Year's Eve pajama party, right on Zoom. Bring your own, whatever. And now, we extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of our community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Please join me at home now with Go in Peace. Go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of us surround you everywhere, everywhere.